guys, welcome to my channel. It's Lisa Tripsget and this vlog is all about Luang Prabang in Laos. Luang Prabang is a small rural destination in Laos, yet it's probably the most visited one and it's honestly stunning. We actually spent 3 days there and in the beginning I thought, what are we going to do for 3 days in this small village? But there were so many things to do, and overall, it's such a nice and relaxing destination, and I can totally understand people coming there for 2 weeks even, especially considering how hard it is to get there. You can fly there from either Thailand or directly from Vietnam, or you can take an internal flight from Vientiane, the capital of Laos. The airport in Luang Prabang is very pretty, but it's also tiny and it's located really close to the city center. The taxi costs about, I think, $3 to $5 depending on the location of your hotel, hostel or resort. We stayed at a resort called Le Bel Air Resort. It's a nice place. It's not the most expensive resort and it's also not the cheapest. I was actually surprised, a little bit surprised by the prices in Luang Prabang because some of the resorts were really expensive. They were unaffordable, especially the one from the fancy chain called Aman. But ours was nowhere close to that, but we still paid something like 250 British pounds for 2 nights, which I found a little bit expensive, but the resort had a nice swimming pool, but we never ended up using it, unfortunately. I probably wouldn't recommend staying at this resort, and this is the reason why. Every time you need to go to the town center of Luang Prabang, and trust me, you will, many times because everything is located there, you need to cross this bridge. And the bridge is terrifying to say the least. It is very tall and it's not in the best condition. Some of the planks were missing and I honestly felt so dizzy. I think in total we crossed this bridge 4 or 5 times and every time was an adventure, especially crossing it at night. We tried to ask for the taxis and bikes, tuk-tuks, to bring us back to the hotel, but most of them refused because they needed to travel long distance and make a huge circle, which would make the journey be around 20 minutes instead of 5. So only a few authorized taxis were actually bringing us there. So as you can imagine, it wasn't the most convenient resort, hence I would probably not recommend it. Once we successfully crossed the bridge, we ended up being very close to the old town, yet we saw this beautiful temple on the way. We didn't know that Luang Prabang had so many temples. They were all absolutely stunning, and we spent quite a bit of time wandering around this temple. And actually, if you want to see all the temples, even if you wanted to see just the most beautiful temples, it would probably take you just a couple of days to see them all, because honestly there are just so many in Luang Prabang. It's surreal how many there are there. I think there are over 30 temples, and the one we just visited, is not even in the top of the temples to visit. Luang Prabang has that many temples because it used to be a capital of the country for a few centuries, very long ago in the Middle Ages. But even though it lost the title of the capital, I think in the 16th century, it still maintains the title of the religious capital, or at least one of the most important religious cities. There are many monks who live in Luang Prabang, and every morning they participate in the alms giving ceremony. There are many articles you can find online about the alms giving ceremony, but if you're not a Buddhist, all you can do actually is to quietly and respectfully observe the ceremony, because only Buddhists are actually allowed to participate in it. But it's a nice thing to witness, but you need to wake up very early for that. If you're not a morning person, You can take a sunset cruise along the Mekong River instead. You can either book a cruise online, although I must warn you that online they cost much more, but of course you will get a much fancier boat, and sometimes the cruises also include a free course dinner, which is nice. We, however, just went to the port and there were so many people offering the cruises. We were not ready to commit yet, so we just kept on walking and found a little tour agency which had flyers of the Swan cruises. So we paid there. It cost us £5 per person. We had no idea what to expect, but we were so lucky because we were the only ones on this boat. The boat looked so cozy, beautiful, photogenic, and we ended up having a private cruise for both of us for just £10. I'm so surprised to see the boat because we paid £5 per person. We expected it to be very old and rusty, and we had absolutely no idea what to expect, and we actually arrived early because we thought we would need to queue and get a nice seat to be able to sit next to the window so we would be able to take pictures, but it turned out we have the entire boat for just ourselves, and it's wonderful. There are also cocktails and beers and wine you can ask for. It obviously costs extra money, but it's also pretty cheap. Beer is less than £1. Yeah, the sunset and the view is absolutely amazing. After the cruise, we decided to go and explore the main market of Luang Prabang. It usually starts at around 5 p.m. and it's usually gone by 10 p.m. And it's present pretty much every day. You can buy a lot of clothes there, and they also sell a lot of art and crafts from Luang Prabang, which is nice because it's not just clothes. There is also a small street food market where you can see a lot of foreigners. I think it's more popular among foreigners than it is among Lao people. And this is just one part of the market. We got these skewers for around £2. They were nice, but very, very spicy. And this is the second part of the market. Keep in mind that Lao food is generally very spicy, and even some dishes that you might expect not being spicy are pretty spicy. Pepe is enjoying the stuffed fish with pork. Delicious.
Delicious. This is very tasty. Probably my favorite after the sausage. I like the sausage and
Next morning we had breakfast at our resort with this lovely view, and then went to inquire how much would it cost to hire a bike. It's quite easy to hire a bike in Laos, but keep in mind that the road outside to most of the main attractions is quite tiring, so it's not advised to hire a bike if you didn't have a good prior experience of driving one. So in the end we decided not to get one, but actually it was cheap. You could get one for as low as $5 to $15 per day. We didn't feel comfortable to ride bikes for almost an hour outside of Luang Prabang, so we decided to take a tuk-tuk. A taxi taxi like this one would cost you around 20 to 25 US dollars, not per person, but for the entire taxi, for roughly, well, something between 4 and 6 hours of the day, so pretty much for the half of a day. That would be enough to go to the waterfalls and spend a couple of hours there, or spend less time at the waterfalls and visit another attraction. And that's exactly what we agreed on, staying a bit less time at the waterfall and then going to the buffalo farm to try some cheeses and have lunch later. You might be wondering where to get a taxi in Luang Prabang, but there are honestly quite a few on main roads, and you will be walking and taxi drivers will be just approaching you and asking if you need a taxi. That's how we found our driver. It took us around 45 minutes to get to the town where the waterfalls are located. Then there is a huge parking where the taxi drivers will be waiting for you, and once you buy the ticket, then you can get a free shuttle to this village. This village is right at the entrance to the waterfalls. There are quite a few stalls selling food, so if you're hungry, you can buy some food there, maybe even eat at a restaurant or just buy something at the stall and then bring it to the park with the waterfalls. There are quite a few tables for picnicking. Actually, at the Kuang Sea Waterfall Park, you can swim, but not in the main waterfall and not in the next few waterfalls. You can swim at the bottom area. It does get quite crowded, but it's nice. Actually, it wasn't too hot on the day when we were there, so I definitely didn't feel like swimming, but I saw quite a few people swimming there. In total, we spent around 2.5 to 3 hours at the waterfalls. So we had a bit of time for the lunch at the buffalo farm. The buffalo farm wasn't very remarkable, to be honest, so I wouldn't say it's a must-visit place in Luang Prabang, but if you are hungry and you're looking for a nice lunch, you can stop there on your way to Luang Prabang. It's probably like 20 minutes outside the city, and it's pretty affordable. The best thing is the ice cream there, though. A lot of people stop there just to buy ice cream. Actually, you don't need to enter the restaurant to buy ice cream. They have a small kind of like stall on the road where you can buy it. They have, I think, 8 different flavors, and ice cream was really remarkable, especially if you miss ice cream. Our taxi driver brought us back to our resort, where we decided to take a small break and relax because the journey was quite tiring, before heading back to the city center for dinner. The main street of Luang Prabang has quite a few Western restaurants, so we decided to go and try one of them just because we wanted to take a small break from spicy food before trying more dishes from Laos the next day. We also decided to take a slightly different route back to our resort. So instead of taking a taxi or taking our usual old French bridge, we decided to take the bamboo bridge, which is one of the main attractions of Luang Prabang. This bridge is actually rebuilt every year because during the rain season in Luang Prabang, it gets washed away. And that's why, to help rebuild it, the entrance to the bridge is paid. You need to pay something like 50p to cross the bridge. And it's a lovely experience, not as scary as the old French bridge. Back in our room, we had to deal with a huge dragonfly, but we managed to catch it.
Hey guys, it's our last day in Laos, and we are finishing basically sightseeing. There are still a couple of landmarks, I think 1 or 2 that we need to see. We only have a few hours, like 3 or 4 hours left because we are flying today. We are flying back to Hanoi, and then from Hanoi we're gonna fly back to London. So today is a really hot day. So yesterday was pretty chilly, I'd say, but today is really hot. I think it always depends on how sunny it is. If it's sunny, it's hot, even though the temperature is the same. And we've got a climb that is waiting for us. Wish us luck. This road looks so familiar now. We've taken it so many times. Luang Prabang is a very small town. I feel like we walked or drove around in taxis and tuk-tuks loads of times, so it's really easy to remember the streets. The ATMs in Laos look like this. There aren't too many, but there are, so you will be able to find them. This one is very noisy because like located next to a school and there's so many kids everywhere. One thing we couldn't do, we were trying to do it yesterday, but everything just took so long. It was already too late to go there. Is a living land farm where you can learn how to plant rice. But today we were thinking of going there, but we are already wearing the clothes we're gonna wear while flying, so I didn't think it would be a good idea to get really muddy. So unfortunately, not this time. But if it sounds interesting to you, why not? Just look at the prices here. The noodle soup 15,000 kip, pad thai 15,000, fried bamboo 15,000, curry 25,000, fish tom yum 50,000.
Mount Phousi is one of the main attractions in Luang Prabang. I would say it's probably the second most popular attraction after the old town of the city of Luang Prabang, the one that is protected by UNESCO, and the one where the night market is basically located, so the one that I've shown you on the first day. Mount Phousi, though, requires a bit of a climb. It's not a steep climb, and actually there are two entrances. There's one that has a little bit more steps, but is not so steep, and another one that is a little bit more steep, but we used it as an exit actually, and we ended up right in the middle of Luang Prabang, pretty much on the main street. Mount Phousi has a working Buddhist temple, and if you walk around for a while you will be able maybe to spot a couple of monks. And there are also absolutely stunning views that you can see from the top of Mount Phousi. Phousi actually translates as a sacred hill, so it is a special place for Lao people.
To go up to the stupa you need to buy a ticket, and it costs 20,000 kip per person, which is cheap. It's less than £1, but it means a bit more stairs to go up.
If climbing stairs is an issue for you, perhaps it's best to skip Mount Phousi, unfortunately, because on each of the sides there are well over 300 steps that you need to take to go to the top of the mountain. If you want to see Luang Prabang from above, but you don't want to climb all the 300 steps, maybe you can climb 50 or 100 steps and see the panorama of Luang Prabang from one of the lower sort of observation decks. This is the view you can see from the top of Mount Phousi. As you can see, it's very, very beautiful. Honestly, it's very impressive. A lot of people come here for sunset or for the sunrise. Technically, Mount Phousi opens at around 6:30 a.m. every day, and it closes around the sunset time, although some people say it remains open for some time after the sunset. A lot of locals come here to buy small birds and then release them. So there are tiny birds in these cages. The way down was definitely much easier than the way up, especially with the heat. As you can see, it's a little bit more straightforward this way. The other one was a bit more swirly. And when you go down, you immediately face this beautiful temple. In my opinion, it's the most beautiful temple in Luang Prabang, and it's the one you see in most of the postcards. So you can see it's a picture postcard view of this temple, and most of the pictures are actually taken from the stairs, or like the small platform that leads to the Mount Phousi. After the hike, for some reason we were really craving a smoothie, and we wanted to get one before heading back to Vietnam. And that's where we saw the biggest avocados. Look at the size of the avocado.
Look at the size of the shake. It's so huge.
This avocado smoothie is so nice. It's very delicate avocado flavors and sweetness, milkiness. Good. Here, there. Mix.
We still had a bit of time before heading back to the airport. We had about 2 hours to spend, so before going to get a quick lunch, we had already a place in mind. We decided to walk around the main street of Luang Prabang once again. For some reason today it was less busy than it was on our first day in Luang Prabang, but it was as beautiful as always. And this time we walked a bit further to pretty much the end of the street, and notice that this part is a little bit different to the rest of the street. For some reason there are quite a few very expensive hotels, and overall it feels a little bit more upscale and posh. There are many fancy shops, restaurants, bakeries. Just overall this part looks a little bit more tranquil and way more expensive. Overall, I found Luang Prabang to be a city of contrasts. There are places that are very expensive. There are hotels that cost £1,000 per night, and then there are hostels that cost $5 per night. And there are restaurants that are very, very expensive, and there are stalls on a street food market where you can eat for $1 and you will be full. There are massage places and spa salons where one treatment starts from $100, and then right next to them there will be very small places where you can get a massage for $5 or even cheaper. So there is something for everyone, and it feels like everyone feels pretty comfortable in Luang Prabang. And even if you have the smallest budget, you will still have a good time here. You'll enjoy it. You'll get good food. If you have super high budget and you can spend £1,000 per night on accommodation, you will have a pretty luxurious experience. So I think you will love it as well. We finally reached the end of the street, and then we had to turn left and then right and then walk for another 5 minutes. So this time we went to the part of Luang Prabang which we haven't visited before, and noticed that there are still quite a few B&Bs and guest houses here. Here we found a nice restaurant where there were mostly locals, and we decided to try a new dish for us, something we haven't tried before. The restaurant is called Good People, Good Food, Good Price. That's how you can find it on Google. It's a funny name. And the dish I was eating was khao soy, and it was really nice. And it was quite a huge portion.
So our lunch was 65,000 kip, which is an equivalent to £3.30p or something like that. That's for 3 dishes, including 2 soups with a lot of meat, very big soups, and spring rolls with meat as well, and a table service. Like, this is unbelievable, honestly. Really affordable destination. And that wasn't even a shack. That was a proper mini restaurant with good rating on Google. So now we are going to have coffee in one of these coffee places on the main street of Luang Prabang, and I'm pretty sure the coffee will be more expensive than the entire lunch. Just one coffee will be more expensive than the entire lunch, but let's see.
It's called the Swiss Bakery, and indeed, one coffee was more expensive than entire lunch for two people in the other place.
So it's time for us to go back. We are flying to Hanoi now, and then we'll have a long interchange, and then we'll fly back to London. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, or better message me on Instagram. You can find my Instagram here on the screen. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to it, because I'll promise a lot more interesting videos in the future. And thanks for watching. Bye.